Wet size 4 footprints on my pool deck, and the scent of someone else's cheap coffee in my backyard. I knew exactly which HOA psychopath had been treating my family's sanctuary like her personal resort. I'm Garrett's single dad, grinding 60 hours a week so my daughter Emma could have the pool her dying mother promised her. For 3 months, Brenda Whitlock, our HOA president, had been sneaking through my gate every morning at 5:47 a.m. sharp. Picture every power-drunk middle manager you've ever hated. Give her a clipboard and control over your home. That's Brenda. My cameras caught her red-handed, using my expensive sunscreen, floating in my water, lounging on my deck while I worked overtime just to afford this place. The entitlement was breathtaking. What Brenda didn't know, I'd been documenting everything, and I'd just ordered 70 gallons of industrial blue pool dye. Her meltdown when she turned electric blue, absolutely legendary. What would you do? Where are you watching from? Every neighborhood has its Brenda. Let me paint you the picture of how we got here. 3 years ago, I lost my wife Sarah to cancer. Emma was 13, I was drowning in medical bills, and the last thing on my mind was buying a house. But Sarah made me promise. With her last breath in that sterile hospital room that reeked of disinfectant and despair, that I'd give Emma a normal childhood, a backyard, maybe even a pool someday. So here I am in Willowbrook Estates, a cookie-cutter subdivision where every house looks like it was built by the same contractor having a bad day. 200 homes built between 2010 and 2015, all beige and brown, like someone was afraid of actual color. The HOA fee runs $180 a month for landscaping, playground maintenance, and community standards, whatever the hell that means. I work as an electrician for Davidson Contracting, pulling 60-hour weeks when I can get them. Good weeks, I clear $800 after taxes. Bad weeks, the sound of Emma's stomach growling reminds me that ramen gets old fast. The mortgage alone is $2,800 a month, and that's with me putting down every penny of Sarah's life insurance. But Emma wanted that pool. Last summer, she finally worked up the courage to ask, "Dad, remember what Mom said about the pool?" Those green eyes. Sarah's eyes, looking at me with hope I hadn't seen since the funeral. Getting that pool approved turned into a 9-month nightmare that would make Kafka weep. Enter Brenda Whitlock, HOA president for 6 consecutive years running. Unopposed, of course. Who else wants to spend their retirement measuring neighbors' lawn decorations? Brenda's 58, retired from First National Bank, where she probably foreclosed on families for fun. Her husband owns the Ford dealership on Route 9, which explains the sense of entitlement. They live in the largest model home on the corner lot, complete with professionally landscaped everything and a circular driveway that screams, "I peaked in high school." This woman measures grass height with an actual ruler. I've watched her crouch in 90-degree heat, pressing that metal ruler against Mrs. Clara's lawn like she's defusing a bomb. She carries it in her purse along with a digital camera and what appears to be a personal vendetta against happiness. My pool permit application was supposed to take 30 days. Brenda stretched it to 4 months of bureaucratic torture. First, she needed impact studies to ensure my pool wouldn't crater property values. Then she required signatures from 3 neighbors, not just approval, actual notarized signatures like I was running for mayor. Every week brought new demands, setback measurements, drainage assessments, a $500 environmental impact fee for a backyard pool that would hold less water than most people use in a month. I watched Emma's face fall with each delay, summer slipping away while Brenda invented new hoops for me to jump through. The final slap came in September, an additional $3,200 in compliance fees. I had to take a weekend job rewiring a warehouse just to cover Brenda's made-up charges, my hands cramping from overtime while she sat in her air-conditioned palace. But we got it done. Emma's first cannonball into that crystal-clear water, the sound of pure joy echoing off our fence, made every bureaucratic battle worth it. The scent of fresh concrete mixing with chlorine became the smell of victory. Her first genuine smile since her mom died, reflected in water that caught the afternoon light like liquid diamonds. That pool became our sanctuary. Emma would float on her back, staring at clouds, finally looking peaceful. I'd sit on the deck after long days, the rough concrete warm under my calloused hands, watching her swim laps and feeling like maybe I was keeping Sarah's promise after all. For exactly 2 months, we had peace. Then Brenda decided my private property was her personal country club, and all hell broke loose. Week 1 started innocently enough. My pool skimmer basket had been moved. The gate latch hung open, which was weird because I'm obsessive about security. Emma's been through enough trauma, I'm not taking chances. Maybe the wind. Maybe I forgot. Single dad brain, right? Week 2 got personal. Someone had used my pool chemicals, the expensive reef-safe stuff I splurged on because Emma's got sensitive skin like her mom. Half a bottle of $40 sunscreen, gone. My pool furniture rearranged like someone was playing backyard decorator. The smell hit me Tuesday morning coffee. Not my usual truck stop swill, but fancy vanilla crap that probably cost more per cup than I make per hour. The scent lingered around my deck like a calling card. Week 3 brought the smoking gun. A half-eaten turkey sandwich on my pool table and a Boss Babe coffee mug floating in the deep end like evidence of a suburban crime. I installed motion sensor lights and upgraded to a smart lock that alerts my phone. $200 I didn't have, but Emma's safety isn't negotiable. Something my electrician buddy Marcus had taught me years ago: document everything when dealing with problem tenants. Same principle applies to HOA tyrants. The alert started immediately. 5:47 a.m. every morning. My phone buzzing with footage of a bathrobe-clad figure strolling through my gate like she owned the place. Brenda fucking Whitlock. The security footage was unbelievable. This woman who fines people for leaving trash cans out 5 minutes late was using my pool lounger as her personal throne, spreading out her newspaper, applying my sunscreen with the casual entitlement of someone who'd never heard no. Thursday morning, I confronted her mid-coffee. "I'm conducting HOA inspections," she said, not bothering to stand. "We've received complaints about excessive pool lighting." The motion sensors I installed because of her trespassing. "You have no authority over private pools," I said, showing her the bylaws on my phone. She laughed that condescending bank manager titter. "My authority is quite comprehensive regarding community standards." Here's where Brenda made her first real mistake. That afternoon, my mailbox contained an official violation notice. Aggressive landscaping creating visual pollution. My crime? 3 tomato plants Emma and I had planted for Sarah's memory, $200 fine, payable immediately. But I'd learned something important from my divorce lawyer years back. Always check the signatures. This notice had only Brenda's name. No board approval, no co-signatures. According to our bylaws, violation notices require majority board approval. Brenda was operating as a one-woman dictatorship. I called an emergency board meeting armed with timestamps and video evidence. Ted Kowalski showed up with his own horror stories, forced to pay $800 to trim his fence after Brenda measured it with a surveyor's level. Maria Santos brought photos of Brenda in her driveway with a tape measure, documenting decorative rock placement like she was investigating war crimes. The pattern was obvious. Working families got harassed, while the country club crowd skated free. But Brenda wasn't done. She doubled down with a move that still makes my blood boil. Code enforcement showed up the next morning. Apparently someone had filed an anonymous complaint about my pool lacking proper permits. I had to pay for a complete reinspection, $800 in updated compliance fees for a pool that was perfectly legal. The inspector apologized. "Sorry, Mr. Davidson. We have to respond to all complaints, even the obviously frivolous ones." Frivolous. There's the word. This wasn't about rules or safety, this was personal. I upgraded my security system that weekend. Second camera with audio, smart lock that logged every entry. The electronic beep it made became the soundtrack to my rage, announcing each morning invasion like a digital middle finger. Emma noticed my mood darkening. "Dad, you're getting that angry face again." "Don't worry, sweetheart," I said, watching Brenda's morning show on my phone. "Sometimes bullies need education about boundaries." That night, I researched everything I could about HOA law. Turns out there's a whole world of homeowner rights that power-hungry board members pray you never discover. Property access laws, procedural requirements, fiduciary responsibilities. Weapons hiding in plain sight in legal code most people never read. The violation notice sitting on my kitchen counter was Exhibit A of Brenda's illegal power trip. No board approval meant no valid violation, which meant she'd just committed official misconduct. I smiled for the first time in weeks. Brenda wanted to play games with someone she thought was powerless. Time to show her what a working man with nothing left to lose could accomplish. Brenda's response to my legal education was swift and vindictive. Within a week, she'd installed a security camera aimed directly at my pool, a massive industrial model with night vision that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. "Community safety monitoring," she announced at the next board meeting, her voice dripping with fake concern. "Recent suspicious activity requires enhanced surveillance." Suspicious activity, like a father and daughter using their own damn pool. The camera's red recording light blinked constantly, a mechanical vulture perched over our privacy. Emma stopped swimming immediately. My brave girl who'd fought through losing her mother now refused to step outside in her swimsuit. "She's watching us, Dad," Emma whispered, pointing at the blinking eye. "It feels gross." The smell of chlorine from our unused pool mixed with my growing rage. That's when I remembered something from my contractor licensing course about surveillance laws. Most counties prohibit cameras aimed at neighboring properties, a tidbit that saved my ass during a nasty job site dispute years back. I filed a code enforcement complaint that Tuesday. Inspector Williams knocked on Brenda's door Thursday with a violation notice. Remove the camera in 48 hours or face daily fines. The camera vanished by Friday morning, but Brenda's next move hit where it hurt most, my wallet. County Inspector Rodriguez appeared that afternoon, clipboard in hand and genuinely apologetic expression on his face. Anonymous complaint about unpermitted electrical work. Someone submitted photos claiming safety violations. Same pool, same permits Brenda had personally approved after extorting compliance fees 6 months earlier. Same photos taken from her illegal camera before I'd forced its removal. The reinspection cost $800 I didn't have. I spent that weekend rewiring Mrs. Patterson's moldy basement, my hands cramping from overtime work while Brenda probably sipped wine in her climate-controlled mansion. But here's where Brenda made her second critical mistake. While getting financially mugged by county bureaucrats, I organized coffee at Ted's house. Just neighborhood chat, I called it. 12 families showed up that first Saturday, and every single one had a Brenda horror story. The pattern was crystal clear. Working families got harassed while country club members skated free. The Santos family got cited for 3 tasteful holiday wreaths, while the Hendersons' gaudy light display visible from space never earned a violation. I created Willowbrook Accountability on Facebook that night. 23 members by Monday, 37 by Wednesday, people sharing photos, documenting selective enforcement, building digital evidence of corruption. That's when Brenda went nuclear. Inspector Rodriguez returned with the most ridiculous complaint I'd ever seen. Noise violations for Emma's birthday party, a party scheduled for the following weekend. Preemptive harassment based on anticipated disturbances. "This is unprecedented," Rodriguez admitted privately. "We usually respond to complaints after incidents occur, not before." Someone had filed a noise complaint about a future event. The pettiness was breathtaking, but Brenda had just handed me legal ammunition. Filing false reports with county agencies carries misdemeanor charges, something I'd learned during my divorce when my ex-wife tried similar tactics. I documented everything: complaint timestamps, party invitations showing future dates, neighbor statements confirming no party had occurred. Built a prosecutor's dream file. Saturday morning arrived with Emma's 17th birthday and Brenda's final power play. Deputy Martinez knocked on my door at 9 a.m. just as I hung streamers around the pool. He looked embarrassed, explaining the noise complaint that brought him here. "Sir, I have to respond to all calls, but honestly, I don't hear any noise. Planning a party today? My daughter's 17th birthday." He glanced at the quiet decorations, Emma visible through the kitchen window frosting her own cake because bakeries weren't in our budget. The scent of vanilla frosting and chlorine mixed with morning air still cool from overnight. "Someone called this a disruptive gathering," he said, making air quotes. "But I don't see any disruption. Have a nice party." As he drove away, I spotted Brenda watching from her window, probably disappointed her police harassment had failed. The crunch of gravel under the deputy's tires seemed to echo her frustration. Emma appeared beside me, birthday crown slightly crooked, watching Brenda's silhouette disappear behind curtains. "Why does she hate us so much, Dad?" Looking at my daughter 17 today, growing up too fast in a world where petty tyrants could weaponize government agencies against children's birthday parties, I realized something important. Brenda wasn't just drunk on power, she was desperate. People who feel secure don't need to destroy kids' celebrations. Time to find out what she was hiding behind all that manufactured authority. Monday morning brought Brenda's psychological warfare into overdrive. Emergency HOA meeting scheduled for Tuesday night during my work hours, naturally. The agenda was ominously simple: immediate safety concerns requiring board action. I burned a vacation day to attend, bringing 15 supporters from our Facebook group. The community center reeked of industrial disinfectant and desperation, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead like mechanical insects. Brenda sat at the head table wearing her power suit and most condescending smile. "We're addressing the pool safety crisis," she announced, shuffling papers with theatrical importance. "Recent incidents threaten our entire community's liability." Recent incidents. Like Emma's birthday party where the loudest sound was teenagers laughing in water. Her pool safety ordinance was bureaucratic poetry. $2,000 annual inspections, weekly water testing reports, mandatory equipment costing more than most cars, retroactive to all pools, with $500 monthly non-compliance fees. "This protects our children," Brenda said, staring directly at Emma in the audience. The calculated cruelty made my jaw clench. Ted stood first. "This targets one family, and everyone knows it." Maria Santos followed. "My kids swim there daily. It's safer than any public pool." One by one, neighbors spoke up. Stories of harassment, selective enforcement, manufactured emergencies. The room's energy shifted as people realized they weren't fighting alone. The vote was decisive. 4-1 against, with only Brenda dissenting. Her face flushed crimson as her power play collapsed publicly, but I'd underestimated her vindictiveness. Next morning, she called an emergency session with only her 2 remaining allies, technically legal but morally bankrupt. They passed pool maintenance standards requiring weekly reports and $500 monthly fees for non-compliance. I researched immediately. They'd violated state open meeting laws requiring 72-hour notice for homeowner-affecting agenda items. My divorce had taught me about procedural violations, small mistakes that topple big bullies. But the real breaking point came Saturday. I was arranging chairs for Emma's pool party when Brenda appeared with Deputy Martinez. The smell of chlorine mixed with my rising fury as she gestured dramatically at our quiet backyard. "Noise violations in progress," she declared, pointing at birthday balloons. Martinez looked mortified. "Ma'am, I don't hear anything. These are decorations." "Preemptive enforcement," Brenda insisted. "This gathering will disrupt community peace." The deputy's embarrassment was palpable. "Sir, there's no violation. Have a wonderful party." As Martinez drove away, Brenda stormed across our lawn, deliberately stepping on Emma's balloons. Pop, pop, pop. Each burst echoed like gunshots in our sanctuary. Emma collapsed in tears. That night, after my daughter cried herself to sleep from the humiliation of having police called on her birthday, I sat on our pool deck. The concrete was warm under my palms, filter humming its familiar lullaby, while rage crystallized into something colder and more dangerous. Brenda had declared war on a 17-year-old girl. Time to show her what real power looked like. I started researching HOA law with the same intensity I'd once used studying electrical codes. What I discovered made my hands shake with possibility. Board members have fiduciary duty, legal obligation to serve community interests, not personal vendettas. Violating that duty carries criminal penalties and personal financial liability. Something every contractor learns when dealing with municipal boards: they're not untouchable. More importantly, HOA financial records are public documents. Any homeowner can demand detailed accounting of fee expenditures. My gut told me Brenda's books wouldn't survive scrutiny. I filed a formal request for 3 years of financial records the next morning. State law mandated 30-day response, but Brenda replied within hours. "Financial records are confidential and unavailable for homeowner review." Dead wrong. I forwarded her email to Sarah Clara, the attorney who'd handled my divorce. Her response was immediate. She just confessed to violating transparency laws. Coffee tomorrow? Sarah's office smelled of leather and justice. Her explanation made my electrician's brain spark with dangerous possibilities. HOA board members who misuse funds face triple damages under state law, she said, spreading documents across her mahogany desk. Criminal charges kick in over $5,000, personal asset seizure, prison time, the works. What are you thinking? Same thing you are. Nobody fights this hard to hide clean books. Looking at Emma's birthday photos on my phone, my brave girl forcing smiles while adults destroyed her celebration, I felt something shift inside me. The scared single dad was gone, replaced by someone who'd learned the hard way that bullies only understand strength. "How deep can we dig, Sarah?" Her smile was predatory. "Deep enough to find whatever Brenda's hiding, and once we do, she'll wish she'd never heard of your pool." The taste of chlorine and revenge mixed perfectly in my mouth. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Marcus, my electrician buddy, calling me with shaking hands and photos that would change everything. "Garrett, you need to see this shit," he said, meeting me at Denny's with his phone full of evidence. "Your HOA psycho has been running a construction scam that would make the mob jealous." The photos from Brenda's house were a contractor's nightmare. Unpermitted pool heater installation, spa equipment wired illegally into the main panel, outdoor lighting that violated every safety code ever written, work that would trigger 15 grand in fines if code enforcement discovered it. "She specifically told me not to file permits," Marcus explained, the scent of coffee and disbelief heavy between us. "Said she'd handle the paperwork. Paid cash up front, which should have been my first red flag. But that was just the appetizer." When Sarah's legal pressure finally pried loose the HOA financial records Brenda had tried to hide, we spread 3 years of bank statements across her office desk like treasure maps leading to buried corruption. $47,000 in landscaping expenses paid to Whitlock Landscaping Services, Brenda's nephew's company that had apparently been performing miracles with invisible plants. "Look at these dates," Sarah said, her finger tracing payment patterns that made my stomach clench. Every major expense coincides with work on Brenda's personal property. The September payment for community pool maintenance, $8,500, happened the exact week Marcus installed Brenda's illegal spa. December's holiday lighting expense matched her nephew's invoice for landscape lighting that probably cost more than my annual income. The pattern was breathtaking in its audacity. Brenda had been approving her own home improvements without HOA votes, then billing our community for work done on her private mansion. "Classic embezzlement," Sarah said, highlighting transaction after suspicious transaction. "She's been using your maintenance fees to upgrade her personal palace while harassing you about permits." The irony tasted like copper pennies in my mouth. Brenda had spent months torturing my family over safety violations while running illegal construction that would make any inspector faint. Cross-referencing county permit records revealed the full scope. No permits filed for any of the work Marcus photographed. No inspections, no safety compliance, just raw, arrogant criminality disguised as community leadership. "She's looking at federal tax evasion," Sarah explained, stacking evidence like ammunition. $47,000 in unreported income, plus state embezzlement charges, conspiracy to defraud a nonprofit, and enough construction violations to destroy her nephew's contracting license forever. I stared at the evidence surrounding us: bank records, photographs, permit violations, and felt the world tilt on its axis. This wasn't about pool harassment. This was about a criminal who'd been stealing from working families to fund her personal empire while terrorizing anyone who might expose her. She's been using harassment as camouflage, I realized, pieces clicking together like electrical connections. Keep everyone focused on grass height and Christmas lights so nobody questions where their money's actually going. Sarah nodded. Pure misdirection. Create enough chaos with petty enforcement that nobody examines the real fraud. Understanding flooded through me like voltage through copper wire. Every violation notice, every harassment campaign, every attempt to destroy my family's peace, all designed to protect her criminal enterprise. "What's our move?" I asked. Sarah's smile carried the cold satisfaction of a prosecutor smelling blood. "We offer her one chance to do right. Public restitution, resignation, walk away quietly, if she refuses." She gestured at the evidence fortress surrounding us. "Then we let every authority from county to federal level decide her fate." For the first time in months, I felt like the predator instead of prey. Time to teach Brenda the difference between real power and stolen authority. The war room took shape in my garage over the next week. Ted brought his accounting background and a hatred for financial fraud that ran deeper than his property taxes. Maria contributed her paralegal skills and a filing system that would make the FBI jealous. Marcus provided the technical expertise and photos that could end Brenda's criminal career. Sarah coordinated our legal strategy with the precision of a surgeon removing a tumor. Emma surprised me most. "I want to help, Dad," she said, pulling up chair to our makeshift command center. "She hurt our family." "I know social media better than any of you." Smart kid. Within hours, she'd created a secure documentation system using cloud storage and encrypted messaging skills I didn't even know she possessed. Our strategy unfolded like a perfectly wired electrical system, each component designed to deliver maximum voltage when the switch flipped. Phase 1. Document everything legally and comprehensively. Ted's forensic accounting revealed the full scope of Brenda's theft: $47,000 stolen over 3 years through fraudulent contracts with her nephew's company. Maria researched legal precedents for HOA fraud cases, discovering that embezzlement over $5,000 triggers federal jurisdiction and potential prison sentences up to 10 years. Something I'd learned during my contractor licensing: always document code violations with photographic evidence and precise measurements. Same principle applied to financial crimes. We built a case that could survive any courtroom challenge. Phase 2. Build an unshakable community coalition. Our Facebook group had grown to 89 members, but we needed physical presence for maximum impact. Maria organized weekly coffee meetings that felt more like revolution planning sessions. The smell of fresh brewed courage and shared indignation filled her living room as neighbors shared their Brenda horror stories. The pattern of selective enforcement became undeniable. Working families got harassment while wealthy residents skated free. Single parents faced manufactured crises, while dual-income households enjoyed mysterious immunity from Brenda's ruler-wielding inspections. Phase 3. Prepare for public exposure with media presence. Jane Murphy from the Willowbrook Gazette had been sniffing around HOA corruption stories for months. When I called her with documented evidence of financial fraud, her response was immediate: "When can we meet?" "This is exactly what we've been investigating," Jane explained over lunch at the diner that still smelled like honest work and blue-collar determination. "Corrupt HOA boards are epidemic in this county. Your evidence could trigger investigations into dozens of other communities." The prospect of system-wide reform added weight to our mission. This wasn't just about stopping one bully, it was about protecting future families from similar abuse. Phase 4. The Blue Dye Contingency Plan, inspired by Sarah's discovery of an obscure city ordinance about marking trespassing incidents for identification purposes. Pool dye used by municipal authorities to track illegal dumping was completely legal for property owners to deploy on their own land. "Genius," Marcus said, helping me calculate the hydraulic requirements. 70 gallons will turn that pool electric blue for weeks. Safe for humans, but impossible to hide. The technical setup required precision worthy of a master electrician. Motion sensors linked to automated release valves, backup cameras with night vision capability, and a smartphone activation system that would trigger from anywhere in the house. We tested everything twice. The dye dispersed evenly through the circulation system, creating a brilliant blue cloud that would mark anyone in the water like ancient war paint. The psychological impact would be devastating, public humiliation matching the private harassment Brenda had inflicted on our family. But the real weapon was accountability. Emma designed infographics showing exactly how HOA fees had been stolen, complete with photos of Brenda's illegal improvements funded with community money. Social media posts ready for immediate deployment once the confrontation began. "Knowledge is power," Sarah reminded us during our final strategy session. "Corruption thrives in darkness. We're bringing floodlights to this fight." The timeline crystallized around Brenda's own arrogance. She'd announced another random pool safety inspection starting Monday morning, claiming emergency powers under her fabricated ordinances. Perfect opportunity for public exposure with witnesses present. County Inspector Rodriguez had agreed to attend after reviewing our evidence of illegal construction. Jane Murphy would arrive with photographer to document the confrontation. Sheriff's Department would be on standby for potential fraud charges. Everything hinged on Brenda's predictable entitlement. She'd been trespassing for months, confident in her perceived authority. One final violation in front of witnesses would trigger our coordinated response. Saturday night, I stood on my pool deck breathing the chlorine-scented air that had become the smell of resistance. The dye release system hummed quietly beneath the surface, ready to transform our sanctuary into a stage for justice. Emma joined me, her reflection rippling in water that would soon become a brilliant testament to consequences. "Tomorrow changes everything," I said. "Good," she replied, steel in her voice that reminded me of her mother. "Bullies need to learn that some families fight back." The trap was set. Time to see if Brenda would take the bait. Sensing the growing opposition brewing in our neighborhood, Brenda moved to fast-track the financial nuclear option. a special assessment demanding $5,000 from every household for emergency infrastructure repairs. No detailed budget provided, no contractor bids, no explanation beyond her imperial decree. The vote was scheduled with exactly 72 hours notice, technically legal, but ethically bankrupt. The meeting notice arrived in our mailboxes on Friday for a Monday vote, printed on expensive letterhead that probably cost more than most families' weekly groceries. The timing was surgical. Most working parents couldn't attend with such short notice, leaving Brenda free to ram through her money grab with minimal opposition. But she'd underestimated our network. Emma's social media campaign activated immediately. Within hours, every member of our Willowbrook accountability group had received detailed instructions about the emergency vote, complete with work schedule accommodations and childcare arrangements. The smell of organized resistance was stronger than the coffee brewing in Maria's kitchen as we coordinated our response. Meanwhile, Brenda's desperation manifested in increasingly unhinged sabotage attempts. Anonymous complaints flooded county offices targeting every coalition member. Ted's fence height got re-reported to code enforcement. Maria's driveway decorations suddenly violated imaginary setback requirements. Marcus found his contractor's license under random audit investigation. The pattern was obvious. Financial terrorism designed to silence opposition before the vote. But Brenda's most vicious attack targeted my livelihood directly. Fake Yelp reviews appeared overnight, claiming I'd done shoddy electrical work, missed deadlines, overcharged customers. One particularly creative lie accused me of stealing jewelry during a service call, a felony allegation that could destroy my reputation permanently. "This is character assassination," Sarah said, documenting each false review for our growing legal file. Defamation, business interference, possibly criminal harassment depending on how far she pushes it. The reviews contained details only someone with access to my client list could know: specific addresses, project descriptions, payment amounts. Brenda had somehow obtained my business records, probably through her bank manager connections, and weaponized them for maximum damage. Emma found me Saturday morning hunched over my laptop, frantically responding to fake reviews that kept multiplying like digital cancer. The taste of cheap coffee and existential dread filled my mouth as I watched years of reputation building crumble under Brenda's systematic assault. "Dad, you're spiraling," Emma said, gently closing my laptop. We knew she'd escalate. "This proves we're winning. Smart kid. Desperation makes people reckless, and reckless people make mistakes." The mistake came Sunday evening in the form of bribery attempts that would have made a corrupt politician blush. Ted received an unexpected visit from Brenda's nephew offering free driveway repair, $3,000 worth of work at no charge, purely coincidental timing. Maria got a mysterious phone call about a recommendation for the promotion she'd been seeking at her law firm. Marcus found an envelope containing $500 cash with a note about appreciation for discretionary silence regarding client confidentiality. Each bribe attempt was documented, photographed, and added to our evidence collection. The psychological pressure was immense. These weren't wealthy people who could casually refuse financial incentives, but principle proved stronger than poverty. "She's offering to solve problems she created," Maria observed during our emergency Sunday meeting. Classic abuser playbook. Create crisis, then position yourself as the solution. The most disturbing escalation came Monday morning when a child services investigator appeared at our door, clipboard in hand, an apologetic expression on his face. Someone had filed an anonymous report claiming Emma was living in an unsafe environment due to pool-related hazards and parental neglect. "This is obviously frivolous," the investigator explained after a 10-minute walkthrough of our immaculate home. "But we have to respond to all reports, regardless of apparent motivation." Emma handled the interview with maturity that broke my heart. 17 years old, discussing her mother's death and our family's stability while some bureaucrat took notes about our pool's safety features. The invasion of privacy was violating, the implications terrifying. "She's targeting my daughter now," I told Sarah that afternoon, hands shaking with rage I'd never experienced before. "This isn't about HOA rules or money anymore. This is about destroying a child's life to protect her criminal enterprise." Sarah's response was ice-cold legal precision. "She just crossed into federal territory. Using government agencies to harass citizens based on false reports is a civil rights violation. FBI jurisdiction, potential federal charges, the whole 9 yards." But Brenda wasn't finished. Her final pre-vote sabotage attempt came Tuesday morning. A surprise code enforcement inspection claiming numerous safety violations, requiring immediate pool closure pending full compliance review. Inspector Rodriguez arrived looking embarrassed and frustrated. "Mr. Davidson, I'm sorry about this. Third anonymous complaint in 2 weeks about the same perfectly legal pool. Someone's really determined to waste taxpayer resources." The harassment campaign had reached a crescendo of absurdity. Time to spring our trap and watch Brenda's world explode in brilliant blue consequences. Tuesday night's emergency HOA meeting felt like a courtroom drama directed by someone who'd overdosed on power fantasies. Brenda had transformed the community center into her personal tribunal, complete with a borrowed podium and what appeared to be a judge's gavel she'd purchased specifically for maximum theatrical impact. The agenda was surgical in its simplicity. Immediate removal of safety hazards threatening community welfare. Translation: destroy Garrett's pool and silence opposition before the financial audit could proceed. She'd stacked the deck with only 48 hours' notice, hoping working families couldn't attend. But our network had mobilized like a neighborhood SEAL team. 37 residents packed the room, armed with printed evidence and barely contained fury about months of harassment. Recent incidents have created liability exposure requiring immediate intervention, Brenda announced, her voice carrying the artificial authority of someone who'd practiced this speech in her bathroom mirror. The pool in question represents an ongoing hazard to community safety and property values. Recent incidents, like my daughter swimming in her own backyard. She'd brought reinforcements, her attorney cousin from downtown, wearing a $1,000 suit and an expression that screamed billable hours. His presentation included legal-sounding threats about homeowner liability and insurance implications, designed to terrify people into compliance through financial fear. But our coalition was ready. Ted stood first, presenting 3 years of financial evidence showing Brenda's systematic theft. Maria followed with legal precedents proving the meeting violated procedural requirements. Marcus displayed photos of Brenda's unpermitted construction projects, each violation worth thousands in potential fines. The room's energy shifted as neighbors realized the scope of corruption they'd been financing. Gasps echoed through the space as people discovered their maintenance fees had funded Brenda's personal palace while she harassed them about Christmas decorations. "This is about accountability," I said when my turn came, standing with Emma beside me. "Not pool safety, not community standards, but a corrupt official using harassment to cover financial crimes." Brenda's face flushed crimson as her carefully orchestrated power play crumbled in real time. The vote was unanimous, 37-0, rejecting her ordinance and demanding her immediate resignation. But Brenda wasn't finished. Her final gambit came with the desperate creativity of someone watching their empire collapse. Wednesday morning brought the ultimate escalation, actual bribery attempts that crossed every ethical and legal boundary imaginable. She approached key coalition members with offers that revealed the full scope of her corruption network. Ted received a visit from her husband's Ford dealership offering a special discount on the truck he'd been eyeing, $8,000 off sticker price for community service appreciation. Maria got a mysterious phone call about a job opportunity at the bank where Brenda used to work, complete with salary details and benefits that sounded too good to be true. The most audacious attempt came when Brenda approached Marcus directly, offering him a $10,000 cash consulting contract for electrical work that didn't exist. She literally tried to hand him an envelope full of money in the grocery store parking lot while security cameras recorded everything. "This is insane," Marcus said, calling me immediately after the encounter. "She's offering to pay me more than I make in 2 months just to shut up about her illegal wiring." Each bribery attempt was documented, photographed, and reported to authorities. The pattern revealed Brenda's access to significant unreported cash money that could only come from years of systematic theft from community funds. But her most desperate move targeted the one thing that could drive me to actual violence: my daughter's future. Thursday afternoon, Emma came home from school in tears. A guidance counselor had pulled her aside with concerns about her college applications based on anonymous reports about her home environment. Someone had contacted the school claiming Emma was experiencing domestic instability that might affect her academic performance. "They're questioning my scholarship applications, Dad," Emma sobbed. "The counselor wanted to know if our house was a safe environment for college interviews." That's when I understood the true scope of Brenda's sociopathy. She wasn't just stealing money or harassing adults. She was actively trying to destroy a 17-year-old girl's educational future to protect her criminal enterprise. Friday morning brought the final straw, a surprise visit from County Child Services based on another anonymous report claiming Emma was living in hazardous conditions due to unsupervised pool access and parental neglect of safety protocols. The investigator was professional and clearly embarrassed. "This is the third report about your family in 2 weeks, Mr. Davidson. The pattern suggests harassment rather than legitimate concern, but we're required to respond to all allegations." Emma handled the intrusive questions with grace that made me proud and furious simultaneously. 17 years old, discussing her dead mother and family stability, while a bureaucrat documented our pool's safety features for the 4th time in a month. "She's trying to destroy my child's life," I told Sarah that afternoon, my voice shaking with rage I'd never experienced. "This ends Saturday." Sarah's smile was predatory satisfaction mixed with legal anticipation. Federal civil rights violations, witness intimidation, conspiracy to defraud, she's built us a prosecutor's dream case. Time to spring the trap and watch Brenda learn the difference between stolen authority and actual consequences. Saturday morning arrived with the crisp clarity of Judgment Day. I'd barely slept, running through every detail of our plan while the pool's filtration system hummed its familiar lullaby. The blue dye containers sat ready in my garage like paint cans of justice, 70 gallons of brilliant consequences waiting for their moment. County Inspector Rodriguez arrived at 8:30 a.m., professional and courteous despite being dragged into Brenda's harassment campaign for the 4th time. His inspection was routine, checking permits, safety compliance, the same equipment he'd already approved multiple times. "Everything looks perfect, Mr. Davidson," he said, preparing to leave. "Your pool exceeds safety standards. Whoever keeps filing these complaints is wasting everyone's time." That's when Brenda made her entrance. 8:45 a.m., precisely on schedule, she appeared at my back gate wearing her most authoritative outfit and carrying a clipboard thick enough to stock a small office. The morning sun caught the metallic shine of her HOA president badge, a piece of costume jewelry she'd apparently bought online to legitimize her manufactured authority. "Inspector Rodriguez, I'm here to assist with the safety evaluation," she announced, letting herself through my gate without permission. "The HOA has additional concerns requiring thorough documentation." Rodriguez looked confused. "Ma'am, I've completed my inspection. The pool is fully compliant with all county regulations." "The HOA has its own standards," Brenda insisted, pulling out her phone to photograph my pool equipment. "Community safety requires comprehensive evaluation beyond basic county requirements." When Rodriguez left, shaking his head at the bureaucratic absurdity, Brenda remained. She walked the pool perimeter like a general surveying conquered territory, taking photos and making notes about violations that existed only in her vindictive imagination. "You're trespassing on private property," I said from my kitchen window, phone ready to activate the dye system. "I'm conducting official HOA business," she replied, not bothering to look up from her clipboard. "This inspection is within my authority as community representative." That's when I pressed the button. 70 gallons of industrial-grade pool dye erupted through the circulation system like an azure volcano. The chemical reaction was instantaneous and spectacular, crystal-clear water transforming into brilliant electric blue that seemed to glow with supernatural intensity. Brenda, mid-stride around the pool's shallow end, stepped directly into the expanding cloud of dye. Her white tennis shoes disappeared first, followed by her beige pants as the blue wave climbed up her legs like liquid karma. The scream that escaped her throat could have shattered windows. Pure, primal horror mixed with the realization that she was literally being marked by her own criminal stupidity. She frantically tried to escape the pool area, but panic made her clumsy. Blue handprints appeared on my pool furniture as she grabbed for support. Her expensive clipboard fell into the water, dissolving into a soggy mess of useless authority. The sound brought neighbors running. Ted appeared first, followed by Maria, then a growing crowd of residents who'd been watching from their windows. Everyone had phones out, documenting Brenda's blue-stained meltdown in high-definition humiliation. "What the hell is happening?" someone shouted. That's when Jane Murphy arrived with her photographer, drawn by the commotion and the promise of the story she'd been investigating for months. The camera flashes started immediately, capturing Brenda's brilliant blue panic from every angle. "I need water!" Brenda screamed, trying to wash the dye off with my pool hose. But pool dye doesn't wash off, it bonds with fabric and skin, creating a permanent marker of trespassing stupidity. County Inspector Rodriguez returned, having heard the screaming from the street. His expression shifted from confusion to understanding as he took in the scene. Brenda literally blew from trespassing, surrounded by witnesses and media documentation. That's when I emerged from my house carrying the legal folder that would change everything. "Brenda," I said, my voice carrying across the crowd with the confidence of someone holding all the cards. "You're trespassing on private property. Again. And this time, everyone can see the evidence." The blue handprints on my furniture told the story better than any testimony. Her panic-stricken face, streaked with azure guilt, created the perfect visual metaphor for corruption exposed. Sarah arrived with Sheriff's Deputy Martinez, both carrying folders thick with evidence of financial fraud, bribery attempts, and civil rights violations. The blue dye had been spectacular theater, but the real drama was just beginning. "Mrs. Whitlock," Deputy Martinez said, reading from an official document, "we have a warrant to discuss allegations of embezzlement, conspiracy to defraud, and witness intimidation. You have the right to remain silent." Brenda's breakdown was complete. The woman who'd terrorized our neighborhood with manufactured authority was now literally and figuratively exposed, her criminal enterprise painted in permanent blue for everyone to see. The pool dye would fade in a few weeks, but the photos, the evidence, and the justice would last forever. The blue handprints on my pool furniture became the most shared photo in Willowbrook history. Within hours, Jane Murphy's article, "Blue Justice: How Pool Dye Exposed HOA Corruption," went viral across 3 counties, inspiring copycat investigations that toppled corrupt boards from here to the state capitol. Brenda's downfall was swift and total. Faced with federal fraud charges, tax evasion allegations, and enough blue-stained evidence to sink a battleship, she signed every resignation document Sarah placed before her. The $47,000 restitution avoided criminal prosecution, but her reputation was permanently marked literally and figuratively. Ted became interim HOA president by unanimous vote, implementing transparency measures that made our neighborhood a model for good governance. Monthly budget reports, contractor bid requirements, live-streamed meetings, everything Brenda had hidden now blazed in public sunlight. The harassment policy was Emma's masterpiece, a framework protecting families from future tyrants. Her scholarship essay about institutional bullying earned a full ride to State University's engineering program. Standing ovation at graduation, tears of pride mixing with the scent of chlorine drifting from our restored sanctuary. My electrical business exploded with referrals. Turns out people love hiring contractors who fight corruption and document everything. The blue pool photos became my unofficial business card proof I handle problems with creative precision. But the real victory was Emma's laughter echoing across our deck again. Friends splashing in water that caught afternoon light like liquid diamonds. Our sanctuary restored, complete with security cameras capturing joy instead of crimes. The ripple effects reached the state capitol, where Emma and I testified about HOA corruption before lawmakers who actually listened. The Homeowner Protection Act now requires annual audits and public financial access, our blue dye revolution codified into law. "When you give petty officials unlimited power over people's homes," I told the legislative committee, "you create suburban dictatorships. Transparency isn't just policy, it's survival." The social good initiative emerged naturally from our victory. Emma's scholarship fund uses recovered money to support local students overcoming adversity. Maria's daughter was first recipient, earning engineering school support. Ted's grandson got the second award for starting neighborhood watch programs. Annual scholarship parties transform my pool deck into community headquarters. The same concrete where Brenda once trespassed now hosts barbecues and fundraising drives. Poetic justice crime scene to celebration center. 1 year later, Brenda's massive corner house sold to a young family whose kids actually enjoy neighborhood community. I watched them at last month's scholarship party, their children splashing while parents volunteered for fundraising duties. Emma graduated valedictorian this spring, her speech about courage bringing standing ovations from neighbors who'd fought beside us, Ted wiping away tears, Maria beaming with pride, Marcus nodding approval from the back row where working folks belong. The transformation was complete, from harassment victims to community leaders, from isolated family to neighborhood champions. The next chapter started last week with a familiar phone call. A homeowner 3 towns over, voice shaking with familiar frustration. "You won't believe what our HOA president did to my garden. I heard about your solution." Emma laughed when I shared the story. Dad, you're becoming the HOA Avenger. Maybe I am. Maybe someone needs to be. Standing on my pool deck tonight, breathing the chlorine-scented air that still smells like victory, I watch Emma and her friends planning college adventures. The rough concrete under my feet reminds me of battles fought and won, of bullies defeated and communities healed. The blue dye faded months ago, but the lessons remain crystal clear in water that reflects starlight and second chances. Sometimes courage comes in 70-gallon containers. Sometimes justice needs creative delivery methods. Sometimes a single dad with nothing left to lose can change everything. The phone's already ringing with new stories, new battles, new opportunities to teach bullies about consequences. Emma's heading to college, but she'll be back for scholarship parties and community celebrations. Our sanctuary is secure. Our neighborhood is healed. Our story continues. Drop a comment and share your HOA nightmare story. You might be featured in my next Karen Stories video. And if this tale of standing up to petty tyrants resonated with you, hit that subscribe button, because there are plenty more David versus Goliath battles where this came from on Karen Stories. Sometimes all it takes is 70 gallons of blue dye and the courage to fight back.